Senior Analyst at Delta and the Product Manager for the Pathways tool and the Roadmap Service, and we'll be sharing some of the key highlights from that research today.
So, we're extremely happy. We've got so many people joining the webinar, more than 100, so we'll be starting soon. We'll maybe just give it another minute or so just to let the last few people sign in and get logged on, and then we'll start. So, good morning to everybody that's just joined us. Welcome to the Delta webinar on comparing the future of the residential heating market in Germany and the UK. I'm Scott Dwyer. I'm a Senior Analyst here at Delta, and I'll be hosting this web broadcast along with my colleague Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Stephen Harkin, a Senior Analyst at Delta, and I manage the Pathways tool and the Roadmap Service, which we'll be sharing some of the highlights from today.
So we've got a lot of people joining us today, so we'd like to ask you just to please mute your phone just to minimize background noise. You can just do this through your own phone or through the box on your right-hand side of your screen.
And there'll also be an option to submit questions as we go through the webinar. So again, there'll be a chat function at the bottom of the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have any questions or any comments to make as we go through, please just submit them and we'll touch on them or address them at the end of the call.
So we want to keep these as interactive as possible. For those who've been on these before, we like lots of questions and comments, and we'll read them out throughout the next half an hour. We'll be presenting some of our views on how the markets compare and contrast in Germany and the UK. So that'll be around half an hour, and then we've got about 5 to 10 minutes for questions at the end. So first of all, I'd like to just run through a quick introduction about who we are. We know we've got lots of people who we know and have been on these webinars before, but for those who may be the first time or a bit new to us, we are a research consultancy that specialises in understanding the technologies, the markets, the policies, and you can see the technologies we focus on in the orange demand circle in the centre of this diagram. So our core expertise is on heat and distributed generation, and anything that's installed near the customer or at the point of demand. So, we offer our clients different market analysis, forecasting and insight on what is a credible view of how the markets will evolve. And we'll give you a bit of a view later on about how we come up with this view in the first place. So energy companies, manufacturers across Europe, Asia, North America are our core clients, also working with policymakers in the finance sector as well. So I'll just pass you on to Stephen now, who'll take you a bit about how this will work over the next half an hour or so.
Okay. Thanks for that, Scott. So on the webinar today, we'll start by giving a brief overview of the Roadmap Service and the background to why we've developed it, and our approach to the forecasting used both in that, but generally in Delta. We'll set the scene for the German and the UK heating markets. So these form the starting points or the foundations for our forecasts. Within this research, we're covering 5 European markets currently, and today we'll just present highlights from 2 of those markets. We'll then pull some extracts out of the reports, focusing on the possible evolution of the heating markets or heating appliance sales to 2025 in both Germany and the UK. We'll then dig down into the opportunity for one key technology that we see in both countries, and really explore where that opportunity lies. And then we'll finish just by summarising some of the next steps for this research, and we'll address some of those questions that we've got throughout the webinar.
Yeah, so please feel free to submit your questions or comments in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll answer these either throughout or at the end of this discussion. So we'll begin by giving a brief overview and background to the approach we use to forecasting here at Delta.
Okay, so before we get on to that, I just wanted to maybe set the scene and give a bit of background or a flavour to why we've built this research. The home energy market in Europe, certainly as we see it, is entering a stage of transformation. As different European countries are looking to find ways to decarbonise the residential energy consumption. And this is evident from many of the discussions that we've been having with our heating appliance manufacturers and utility clients, many of whom we're helping navigate what may be a transformational change in these markets. So our heating industry clients are increasingly asking us questions around what will this change look like, what will it be, how will this impact their businesses in the next decade, and how can they continue to thrive in this industry. Whereas the energy companies that we work with, they're increasingly recognizing that the traditional commodity supply model is weakening, and that they need to innovate and develop new revenue streams in order to stay competitive as we shift more towards a distributed energy world.
Yeah, I mean, so you see some of the headlines that have been in the media a lot recently, but we don't rely on news cutting to tell us what's going on. So we're constantly speaking to the market. So we've got an inside track on how these markets are developing. So these types of questions from our networks, from our key clients, has really led, and the work we've been doing has led us to develop the Pathways tool, which you can see summarised on the left, and the Roadmap service, which is you can see on the right. So they're basically two sister offerings that are structured to help the energy companies and heating industry adapt and succeed in the sort of dynamic and evolving European heating market. So we're not covering Pathways today, but it's an important component of how we arrive at our forecast. So give you a quick summary, it's an Excel-based tool that we use to assess the sort of competitive positioning, addressable market potential of all these new technologies that are appearing on the market and are being developed. So we've got more than 20 technologies considered at the moment across each housing segment in each country across Europe. So we've got more than 50 housing segments categorized and classified. So it combines all our data on technologies, policies, housing stock, easy-to-use software front end that then allows you to benchmark the technologies so you can run sensitivities, develop your own scenarios, and really see how the market opportunity differs and changes for the different technologies.
And on the right-hand side there, you can see the Roadmap service. And this is where we'll draw highlights from today and share our view with you as to how some of these markets will develop. And the Roadmap service, it really provides consulting analysis, which presents product sales forecasts to 2025 for each of the technologies we consider. And it identifies the key battlegrounds between different low-carbon technologies and within different housing segments. And it also assesses the strategic implications of that for different players in the market. So the Pathways tool is a key engine behind the Roadmap service. And we use the quantitative outputs from the Pathways tool, combined with our deep understanding of European heating markets, and combine that with new Delta research and analysis, particularly around the customer, to really help us build evidence-based sales forecasts. So these two offerings really allow us at Delta to approach forecasting in a unique and superior way to other approaches that we've seen, and it's why our clients subscribe to the service. So we can combine our rigorous analysis of the performance of, as Scott mentioned, 20 technologies in over 50 different housing segments in each country. So we can combine that with years of real-life experience and understanding of heating markets, drawing on our vast experience of working closely with boiler manufacturers and utilities across Europe. And that's really helped us to get under the skin of how these companies operate, what motivates them. We understand their key challenges, so we can combine all this insight when building our forecasts in the Roadmap service.
Okay, so when we've talked a bit about why we developed these tools, the types of questions we're being asked by our clients and networks, and you can see a selection of these here. which products should we launch, where and when, what are the implications for my business, what will be the key segments in the different markets.
We cover a broad range of technologies, so there's currently around 20 technologies in the mix. You can see them summarized there on the right-hand side. And we group these technologies around things like micro-CHP fuel cell technologies, electric heat pumps, hybrid heat pumps, gas heat pumps, solar technologies, and of course the conventional heating technologies. So we include forecasts for gas boilers, oil boilers, electric heating, for example.
Yes, I mean, if there's technologies there that you're specifically interested in or aren't covered, feel free to type into the chat box and we'll consider these. This really it's an iterative process developing this tool and service, so we're more than happy to hear some of your suggestions as well. We'll talk these through at the end. So that's a really brief intro to the service. Obviously there's more on our website. You can go and download. There's lots of materials up there on the types of analysis we can do and how the tools are set up and what they look like in the methodologies. But I think the next bit is a really interesting part. So Stephen's going to take you through now what the heating markets in the UK and Germany look like today, which is really the foundation upon which we build our forecast, which we'll talk about in the next section as well.
So an important starting point in understanding the heating markets in Germany and the UK is to look at the housing stocks in each market and understand how they're currently heated. So this chart at the top illustrates the breakdown of the housing stock in Germany. On the y-axis, we have the number of properties per housing segment. And each of the blue bars you can see along the x-axis represents one housing segment, of which there's 54 in Germany.
Yeah, so we've broken the housing stock down, well, really in three parts. So part one is the fuel type. So this is the fuel type being used by the heating appliance currently installed in the property. So you can see homes in the blue section are on gas, the purple section are oil homes, the yellow is the electric properties. The other way we segment it is by thermal demand. So for each of the fuel types, we consider different thermal demands, so ranging from very low thermal demand to high thermal demand. And then separately to this, we consider new builds as just a separate group, just because there's less variation there between the thermal demands and the fuel types.
And I think an important point to add there is that we keep this breakdown or the segmentation consistent across different markets, which enables us to do this kind of compare and contrast, which we're doing today. So in Germany, you can see that homes with a connection to mains gas, so those ones in the blue box, make up the majority of the installed base. They count for around 50% of the housing stock. You can see there that the electric properties have only quite a small share, and oil properties have a modest share of the German housing stock. And it's important to look at the stock in this way because typically it's the off-gas homes that have higher annual heating bills associated obviously with the higher heating fuel costs. And it's these properties that present a stronger opportunity for low-carbon technology sales. So understanding the stock in this granular level allows us to identify where the key opportunities for different products lie and to also size the addressable market for these technologies.
So the Germany market, but now looking at the UK, you see the profile of the housing stock is quite different. The market is dominated by gas properties. Again, this is something it has in common with Germany, but the dominance of gas is more extreme in the UK. So here, around 80% of the housing stock is heated by gas. And the off-gas share of the stock, where fuel bills are higher, there's potential for higher fuel bill savings with new technologies, it's much less than in Germany, where there's very few properties on oil.
So in summary, you can see both markets, they're gas-led, but they have quite different housing stock profiles. And it's this that really shapes what the current and the future heating markets will look like for both countries.
So how do the two heating markets look today? And again, many of you will have a good idea of this, but it's important for us to use the methodology to see where we're starting so we can come up with an end point as well. So this chart illustrates the annual sales of heating appliances in both UK and Germany, broken down here by gas boilers, that's the blue part, oil boilers, that's in purple, and electric heating in yellow. And the sort of other new technologies, low carbon technologies, are all grouped together under the orange colour. So in both markets, you can see that relatively low gas prices means that gas boilers really dominating the relatively low cost of boilers as well. And this reflects the majority share of the housing stock on gas. So the UK heating market is more than double the size of Germany's in terms of annual sales. So this is really due in part to the high penetration of dwellings in Germany that share a communal heating system, whereas in the UK nearly all homes have individual heating systems. So that's the reason why there's a higher annual turnover of heating appliances.
So if we just look at Germany, which is next to UK, looks quite small, but it is one of the biggest heating markets in Europe. We see a relatively high penetration of low carbon appliance sales. So they account already for around 20% of the annual boiler market, and that's equivalent to around 130,000 units per year. And it's a much bigger share than in the UK, where it's only around 2%. But if we break this down in Germany, it's interesting to see that there's a range or a portfolio of technologies that make up the orange low carbon share from the stacked bar there, with air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, biomass, and boiler plus solar thermal technologies all gaining quite a significant share of that market.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things driving this as well, obviously.
Exactly. So some of the key drivers include building regulations. So the ENEV, or the Energy Efficiency Directive, and the EE-Vermagi, or the Renewable Heating Law. That's really forcing the uptake of gas boiler plus solar thermal in on-gas new builds. And in the off-gas new builds, that's really pushing uptake of technologies like the heat pumps and biomass boilers. But also there's some uptake happening in the existing stock, generally higher customer awareness in Germany versus the UK, more engagement with their heating system, as well as higher residential energy prices are all feeding into to that diverse market in Germany.
So two quite different markets today, as I'm sure a lot of you sort of knew and could appreciate, but now we've gone through that and we've looked at these two markets.
The policy landscape, so what's happening with energy policy, support for low carbon technologies, building regulations. We also consider technology development, so looking both at how the costs of these technologies evolve and how the efficiency or the performance of the technologies will change. We consider market push, so from players like utilities and manufacturers. So what activities are they doing in the market? How are they driving or trying to influence uptake? And finally, we consider customers, so looking at both the end user and installers. So really trying to understand their attitudes, awareness, and what impact that has on uptake. So across all those factors, we recognize that there's lots of uncertainty in the market, and that's why we developed 3 different scenarios for this research, which we update regularly in order to capture changes or movement in these key factors and how that will affect future market development. So once we've defined those scenarios, we then feed all the data assumptions into the Pathways tool, and this allows us to model the performance of 20 technologies in each of the 54 different housing segments for each country. And this really shows us what the customer proposition for each technology looks like, what its physical fit in the housing stock looks like, so how many properties will it fit into, what's the addressable size of the market. There's more information on the Pathways tool on our website. We've done a previous webinar to this, which explains more about that methodology and shows some of the inputs and outputs of that.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really our way of condensing down all our knowledge and experience within Delta to understand, understanding customers in the different markets. And obviously we had to carry out new and additional research to understand the importance and impact of customer soft factors on the uptake of offerings in each segment as well.
And then we combine this new analysis with the quantitative outputs from the Pathways tool to build granular sales forecasts for each of those home energy technologies out to 2025. And finally, we then identify and analyse the key battleground housing segments in each country, some analysis on the key competing technologies for each country, and then analyse the strategic implications of all of that for our members.
Yeah, so we developed this detailed and quite logical approach to forecasting, as many of the forecasts that seem to be out there tend to be high level, top-down forecasts without much methodology or sort of detailed granularity behind them, which a lot of our manufacturer and utility clients were usually saying that they weren't that satisfied with. So this approach is really based on solid analysis, understanding, lots of data, and a very strong, robust approach. And these outputs are just now being used by our clients to inform and shape their strategies in different markets today. So on this next slide, what we'll do is we'll look a bit more in detail at the forecast under one of these scenarios.
So the chart here on the left illustrates for Germany the share of heating appliance sales both today and how this breakdown evolves out to 2025. In this chart, the blue section represents gas boilers, purple is oil boilers, yellow is electric heating, and the orange at the top there, so the rapidly expanding segment, is the low-carbon technologies. And as you can see in Germany, there's already a significant share of low-carbon technologies being sold, around 20% of the market. And by 2025, we expect this share to grow to be around 40% of the overall market. The impact of that is that conventional heating system sales will fall by around 130,000 units per year, with gas boilers taking the biggest hit there. But we also see some oil boilers and electric heating being displaced. And in that orange section at the top, we see a number of key low-carbon technologies competing for a share of those sales. In our analysis under this scenario, we've identified 5 key technologies that will dominate this growth, with a few other technologies gaining some share by 2025. And we'll look at what those technologies are on the next slide.
So in the UK, we also expect to see a lot of growth, but all this really coming from a much lower starting point. So by 2025, we expect low-carbon technologies to account for just under a third of annual heating appliance sales. So that's around 400,000 units a year. So much of this will be new technologies, low-carbon gas technologies, basically, so hybrid heat pumps, micro CHP, gas heat pumps, and all these displacing gas boiler replacements. So in the UK, we see oil boiler sales almost disappearing by 2025, as they're displaced mainly by electric technologies or by low-carbon, high-efficiency oil appliances such as oil heat pumps and hybrids. So there we have 2 quite different starting points and 2 very different finishing points as well, with different levels of growth in each of the new technologies that are emerging today. So in the next section, we'll explain what this technology mix looks like.
Okay, so here we illustrate what the prospects for the different low-carbon technologies in each market look like under this scenario. The chart here on the left illustrates the annual sales of low-carbon heating appliances in Germany from today out to 2025. And at the bottom there, you can see the list of technologies that we've included in the forecast. So in Germany, as mentioned on the previous slide, low-carbon appliance sales double from around 130,000 units per year today to over 250,000 by 2025. And across that time period, we expect that growth to be gradual. So we don't expect any big jump or surge in the market. We expect it to be quite steady. And as you can see, there's not one technology that will win by 2025. The market's quite mixed in Germany in terms of which low-carbon technologies will be taken up. So there's not one technology that will win.
Yeah, so it's very different in the UK, where in this scenario we see sales grow to around 450,000 units per year. It's almost double that of Germany. So, and by 2020 we expect the UK to overtake Germany as one of the leading markets in Europe for these new energy technology sales. In the UK, the RHI, that's the Renewable Heat Incentive, which is a new policy that starts from 2014. This will be a game changer. So customer economics of air source heat pumps, and this includes hybrids as well, but interestingly not gas heat pumps, are transformed with this RHI, which could drive uptake even on gas if government intervention continues and strengthens. So our clients just now are really using this tool to model and research to explore sensitivities around these scenarios and what happens if you change the assumptions around subsidy levels, product prices, future cost reduction potential, and just give themselves a bit more confidence really with which, for when they invest in products and market development.
So in summary, healthy growth in the low-carbon heating markets in both countries, but perhaps surprising to see the UK overtaking Germany as the leading market for low-carbon technology uptake, especially as Germany is typically viewed as the European leader when it comes to low-carbon technologies. And this is in part why we've decided to compare these two countries today. So we had a few questions from clients asking why we were doing this. And we just thought it would be interesting to give a sneak preview and just share some of these highlights.
Okay, so we're showing you what the heat markets look like today in these two markets and how we expect them to evolve. So we thought it would be interesting to take one of these technologies that are key in both markets, that's air source heat pumps, and sort of delve a bit deeper and explore actually where in the housing stock and among customers this opportunity lies. So on this next slide, you'll see the reference scenario forecast for air source heat pump uptake in Germany and the UK. So this considers both split and monoblock types of air source heat pump as well. So the x-axis, you have obviously year, 4 date points, and on the y-axis we have annual sales. So the blue line represents uptake in Germany of air source heat pumps, and the purple line represents the same for the UK. On the right-hand side, you can see some of the assumptions that we've made based on our research that feeds into the forecast. And obviously, with the Pathways tool, it's quite easy to go in and overwrite our inputs with your inputs, which we're seeing a lot of people doing in order to explore the sensitivities themselves.
So just looking at both those lines then, you can see that the market in Germany today at around 40,000 units per year is more than double the size of the market in the UK. So building regulations, which are driving uptake in the new build sector, is a key driver for this, as well as the availability of an upfront subsidy, the MAP subsidy, and a heat pump specific electricity tariff, particularly in the new build and off-gas segments. However, rising electricity prices are dampening down some of that opportunity. Looking at the UK, with the introduction of the Renewable Heat Incentive this year, this is an ongoing payment for every unit of heat generated by a renewable heating appliance. This really transforms the economics of heat pumps, and that combined with tightening building regulations around 2017 or 18, we expect the UK to overtake Germany in terms of annual heat pump sales under this scenario. And as fully installed costs continue to fall after 2020, and combined with continued government intervention, we expect the UK market to grow to over 100,000 units per year under this scenario. So just to summarise, big transformation in these markets, the UK being less than half of that of the German market today, to being more than double by the end of the time period. So on the following slides, we'll just explore more where these heat pump sales will come from in both markets.
Okay, so here what we're looking at is outlook for air source heat pumps in Germany among several key segments. And not all the segments we've highlighted here, just 6 of the biggest ones. And you can see the three oil segments there. That's with their 3 different thermal demands. And this is sales in 2025, and uptake up the y-axis.
So each of the bars here represents several thousand units per year in terms of annual sales. And to set these key segments in context, we expect the overall air source heat pump market to grow to around 50,000 units per year by 2025 in this scenario. And these 6 segments alone, out of a total of 54 segments for Germany, account for almost 60% of that market. So quite a high share of those sales are in these 6 segments. And as mentioned on the previous slide, it's building regulations, incentives, high energy bills that's driving uptake in these particular segments.
So that's where some of the key opportunities lie for air source heat pumps in Germany. So now we can take a bit of a look at the UK as well.
So this chart, very similar to the one we saw on the previous slide, where we have key housing segments across the x-axis and the number of units per year being installed on the y-axis. Unlike Germany, the air source heat pump in the UK market is still emerging, but we expect to see strong growth in sales to 2025. And we expect to see a lot of this growth to occur between the 2015 and 2020 period in this scenario when the renewable heat incentive is introduced. After 2020, with continuation of the RHI and continued reduction in fully installed costs for air source heat pumps, we see a strong opportunity in the UK, even on gas segments, by 2025. Each of these bars represent sales of several thousand to over 10,000 in the UK, and again, to set this in context of the overall market, which we expect to grow to over 100,000 units per year in this scenario. These 6 segments alone account for almost half of those sales, so quite a big share.
Yeah, so very strong opportunity for air source heat pumps in your mid-sized gas properties in the UK, which really is a massive segment here. So, but what will air source heat pumps be competing with in the segment? So the next slide, we drill down a bit more into this moderate thermal demand gas segment on the key battleground segments in the UK for these technologies. And before we move on to that, Stephen, just want to say that, remember, you can ask questions or send comments in the box on the right-hand side of your screen. We've got lots of questions coming in, so thank you for those. We will answer those probably at the end. So keep them coming, and then we'll get to those in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
So as Scott mentioned, we characterize a number of key battlegrounds in terms of the key housing segments in this analysis. And within those segments, we really try to understand what that segment looks like and what the key battles between the different technologies are. So this segment in particular, a moderate thermal demand gas segment in the UK, accounts for around 6 million properties, or 6 million homes from the housing stock, so quite a significant segment. And we're already seeing around 370,000 boiler sales per year into this segment, with virtually no low-carbon technologies being sold. And in this segment, on the right-hand side, you can see the breakdown there of the occupier type and the house type. And this is quite important for influencing the fit of technologies and the uptake based on different customer attitudes. So in this segment in particular, we see a real battle between hybrids, micro CHP, and all the low-carbon technologies out to 2025. So competing with hybrids and with micro CHP, both on upfront cost and on payback period, will be a key challenge for air source heat pumps within this segment. But with the RHI, we do think it has an opportunity and could maybe gain 10 to 15,000 units per year in this one segment.
So again, some tough competition for air source heat pumps, but really reflecting a good opportunity there. So digging down into the individual segments like this, and you can see how it's really useful, and it's helping our clients understand which segments they should be targeting with the different offerings. So,
and some of our subscribers are already using the Pathways tool to investigate in this segment what happens if they lower the price of their air source heat pump, or if they can improve the efficiency of their micro CHP units by a few percent, to see how that influences this competition and how the penetration of this segment changes.
Okay, so we've discussed now some of the key ways we see the market developing in UK and Germany that come from our Germany and UK roadmap service analysis. So focusing on what these markets look like today and how we expect will grow over the next decade, and we've looked at the opportunity for air source heat pumps as well in some key segments. So before we get on to the questions that were submitted so far, and keep them coming as well, we'd like to give an update on sort of where we're at with developing the service and how the different markets we're adding to this. So we've got Germany and UK reports, and we're also going to be adding Netherlands, France, and Italy. Netherlands, I think, is finished now, Stephen. We've got...
Yes, the Netherlands that's ready, and we're delivering France and Italy in the next month or so.
Yeah, so we're going to do, I mean, we're really interested to see how some of these markets stack up against the UK and Germany as well. So, if there's certain analysis that you're interested in, types of comparison, again, send your comments in or let us know, and we'll look at those for you. So, moving on to the Q&A session now, Stephen. I think we've got some questions in. So, so there's one question about biomass, market forecast for biomass heating at all.
Yeah, so biomass that's one of the technologies that we cover within the service. And we really focus on those biomass technologies, so the pellet boilers primarily, that are being sold into individual homes. So that's maybe an important point to mention, is that the scope of this analysis currently is looking at individual sales to individual properties. So we wouldn't look, for example, at communal scale biomass boilers where it might serve several properties or a block of flats. But yeah, biomass is one of the technologies that we've covered in the service.
Yeah, and another question on where is district heating in the profile of the German heating market?
So yeah, we have considered district heating, but what we have done for Germany is we've excluded most of the large communal heating systems. So we'd often take out that share of district heat. So we may subtract some of the homes or the housing stock in order to remove those homes that are on district heat. Because we think switching from that to individual boilers, it's not really an opportunity or a prospect for sales. So yeah, we cover district heat, or we look at that certainly in the analysis.
Okay, thanks for those questions. And there was another one on the air source heat pumps. So what flow temperatures are we using for the air source heat pumps used in the tool?
So that's quite a technical question. Again, I guess one point to say is the Pathways tool, we haven't designed this for manufacturers to model their technology in one home to find that efficiency. So while we don't look specifically at the flow temperatures, we will look at the average or seasonal performance factor of heat pumps across the housing stock, so take a view on what it looks like across the housing stock. And we use the tool, it's more to help inform us of the overall potential size of the market opportunity, rather than how it specifically performs in individual homes.
Yeah, so used in sort of conjunction with a more detailed technical model. So I mean, that's how we see people using it as well. People from R&D departments using it to feed their modelling results and their technical analysis results into this tool to see what uptake will be.
Yeah, so we position this as a tool that goes alongside. So we don't try to or expect to be able to compete with the advanced technical tools that manufacturers have in-house. We've designed this to sit alongside that to help them understand, to feed in some of their outputs from their models and to see what impact that has on the opportunity for their product.
Okay, so again, thanks for all those questions there, and feel free to send us email or other questions afterwards. And for those who didn't get a chance to answer your questions, we'll send you some answers direct as well. So again, if you're interested in more information on this research, please visit our website or join the mailing list. If you're interested in receiving a copy of the slides presented today, just send us an email or give us a call and we'll send you a copy. We can also send you a link for the recording so you can watch and listen to this back. If some of your colleagues have missed this or you'd like to catch certain bits again. And if you're interested in speaking to us in person or arranging a meeting, let us know. Delighted to talk with you, visit you or meet you at any of the upcoming events we'll be at. So we'll be at eWorld in Germany in, is that April or, yeah, Mostra Convina in Italy in March, and EcoBuild in the UK, which is later this year. So,
thanks again, everybody, for your attention today and for joining the webinar. Thanks for everybody who submitted questions, some really interesting ones there. And as Scott mentioned, we will get back to those questions that we haven't answered. And we'd be delighted to get any feedback, comments, suggestions that you have for this research and on what we've discussed today. So yeah, thanks all for your time this morning, and I hope you have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, and goodbye.